John Mercer stood at the observation deck of the human diplomatic vessel, watching the stars. In a few minutes they would dock with the Galactic Council's mobile embassy. His heart beat faster at the thought. After centuries of wondering if we were alone in the universe, humanity had its answer. And now, he was about to become one of the first humans to meet with the full council. "Nervous?" asked Lisa Daniels as she joined him by the window. Her dark hair was pulled back neatly, her blue uniform crisp and perfect. John smiled slightly. "Wouldn't you be? We're about to meet beings from 27 different worlds." 28, actually, Lisa corrected him. "They added the Meroans last month." John shook his head. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, Lisa had absorbed every piece of information the Council had shared during their initial communications. Where John had been selected for his calm under pressure and diplomatic skills, Lisa was here for her brilliant scientific mind. "Final approach in 2 minutes," announced Admiral Frost's voice over the intercom. The older man had been skeptical about this meeting from the start. "Remember your training, people." The ship slowed as it approached the massive structure floating in space. The Council embassy was beautiful in an alien way, all curves and spirals of materials that seemed to glow from within. "I still don't understand why they insisted on meeting in space rather than sending representatives to Earth," John muttered. Lisa gave him a knowing look. "You've read the reports, they're scared of us." "Scared?" "Of humans. They classify Earth as a Class 12 death world, John. That's the highest rating in their system. Our gravity, atmospheric pressure, temperature ranges, bacteria, viruses, predators. Even our weather patterns are extreme by their standards." The ship docked with a gentle shudder. John straightened his uniform. "Well, let's go show them we're more than just scary Deathworlders." The council chamber was designed to accommodate beings from dozens of worlds. Some areas were filled with water, others with special gas mixtures. Temperature zones ranged from near freezing to uncomfortably hot. In the center stood a platform where the human delegation now gathered. John tried not to stare at the bewildering variety of alien forms around him. Some were vaguely humanoid, others looked like nothing he had ever imagined. A being that resembled a blue jellyfish floated in a water tank nearby. Across the room, something like a furry six-legged giraffe conversed with a creature that seemed to be made of living crystal. "Representatives of Earth," announced a melodic voice through their translation devices. "We welcome you to the Galactic Council." The speaker glided forward, an elegant being with silvery skin and 4 arms. Councillor Zarvex, the Aqualian representative who had been assigned as their liaison. "We are honored to be here," John replied, giving the greeting gesture they had been taught. "We look forward to learning from your combined wisdom and sharing our own knowledge." A rumble of translated whispers filled the chamber. John caught fragments. "Surprisingly articulate. Dangerous species. Unpredictable." Zarvex gestured toward a screen where Earth rotated slowly. "Your world fascinates us. Few sentient species evolve on planets with such extreme conditions. Your adaptability is remarkable." John noticed how many of the aliens kept a careful distance from the human delegation. Fear, not respect, colored their curiosity. "We have brought information about our cultures, sciences, and history," Lisa said, stepping forward. "We hope this will be the beginning of a productive relationship." "Indeed," said Zarvex, though John noticed the slight hesitation. "The Council has prepared a series of questions to better understand your species." The questions that followed revealed much about how the Council viewed humans. They asked about Earth's wars, about human aggression, about mankind's rapid spread across their own planet. They seemed particularly concerned about how quickly humans had advanced from primitive technology to space travel. "You developed nuclear weapons before achieving unified world government?" asked a being with compound eyes like an insect. "This is most unusual and concerning." "Our history has dark chapters," John admitted, "but we have learned from them. We have not used such weapons in war for over a century. Yet you maintain them," stated another council member. As deterrence, Admiral Frost said firmly, and for planetary defense. The tension in the room grew. John could see this was not going well. They viewed humans as dangerous primitives, barely civilized warriors who had somehow stumbled into space. Suddenly, an alarm blared. On the far side of the chamber, a gravity regulator for one of the alien environments malfunctioned. A small alien child, no larger than a human toddler but with 6 limbs and green skin, tumbled toward the floor as gravity in that section increased dramatically. John moved without thinking. His earthborn muscles, evolved under higher gravity than most council species experienced, propelled him across the chamber. He caught the child moments before it would have been crushed against the floor. The weight was immense, the gravity now nearly 3 times Earth normal, but John's body held firm as he carried the small alien to safety. When he turned, the entire council was staring at him in shock. What had seemed like minimal effort to him appeared as a feat of incredible strength to them. "You withstood triple your normal gravity," Zarvek said slowly. Without assistance technology, John handed the child to what he assumed was its parent. "Earth's gravity varies slightly across its surface. We're built to handle changes in pressure and weight." "The human moved so fast," whispered another counselor, "and with such purpose." "We have protective instincts," Lisa explained, "especially toward children." The mood in the chamber shifted subtly. The fear remained, but now it was mixed with something new, a reluctant respect. Later, as the human delegation returned to their ship, Admiral Frost clapped John on the shoulder. "That was good work today, Mercer." "I just reacted," John said. "Any human would have done the same." "That's exactly the point," Lisa said thoughtfully. "What's ordinary to us is extraordinary to them. They've been expecting warriors, and you showed them something different." John gazed out at the stars again. "They still see us as dangerous." "Yes," Lisa agreed. "But now they're wondering what else we might be capable of beyond fighting." "It's a start." On the embassy station, Counselor Zarvex was having a similar conversation with the council leaders. "They are indeed powerful," Zarvex admitted. "Their reflexes are remarkable, their strength concerning." "Should we reconsider allowing them into the galactic community?" asked the insectoid counselor. Zarvex's 4 hands made a complex gesture. "Perhaps, but consider this. The human did not use that strength for violence. He used it to save a child. There may be more to these Deathworlders than we initially thought." As the human ship prepared to return to Earth with the Council's preliminary terms for future relations, John couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of a long journey. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger universe, and everything would change. 6 months after first contact, John Mercer stood in a hot, humid greenhouse on board the human science vessel Horizon. Around him, plants from Earth thrived under artificial light. The air was thick with moisture and the scent of rich soil. "Dr. Rivera wants to see you on the bridge," Lisa Daniels said as she entered. She paused to inspect a young tomato plant. "The council representatives have arrived." John nodded. 3 weeks ago, an urgent message had come from the Galactic Council, a request for help that had surprised everyone in Earth's diplomatic corps. Now they were orbiting Novaris 7, a failing colony world on the edge of Council space. "How bad is it down there?" John asked as they walked through the ship's corridors. "Worse than the Council admitted," Lisa replied. "The atmospheric toxicity has doubled in the last month. Most of the colonists have been evacuated." They reached the bridge where Dr. Alex Rivera, Earth's leading ecological systems engineer, was studying holographic maps of the planet's surface. The thin man with salt and pepper hair barely looked up as they entered. "The Council shuttle just docked," Dr. Rivera said. "They're bringing their science team aboard." Admiral Frost stood to the side, watching the alien ship through the viewport. "Remember, this is as much a diplomatic mission as a scientific one. The Council is testing us." The door opened and Counselor Zarvex entered, accompanied by several aliens of different species. One moved forward, a tall, slender being with pale skin that seemed almost translucent. 4 large eyes blinked independently of each other. "I am Clamor, lead ecological specialist." the alien said through a translator device. My homeworld once suffered a similar crisis. We are grateful for your assistance. Dr. Rivera gestured to his displays. We've been analyzing your data. The colony's ecosystem is collapsing from the bottom up. Something is killing the microorganisms in the soil. Yes, Clamor agreed, but we cannot identify the cause. The toxicity levels are too high for extended research on the surface. John noticed the aliens' environmental suits, far bulkier than the lightweight protection humans used. Of course, for species from gentle homeworlds, Novara 7's deteriorating environment would be deadly even with protection. We can help with that, Lisa said. Humans can work in toxic environments with minimal protection. We've evolved robust filtration systems in our bodies. The aliens exchanged looks that John had learned to interpret as surprise. You would physically go to the surface? Zarvex asked. The radiation alone would cause cellular damage to most species. Admiral Frost smiled slightly. Earth's natural background radiation is higher than most Council worlds. We've adapted. And we've brought samples of Earth's most resilient plants, Dr. Rivera added. They might help rebuild the soil ecosystem. 3 days later, John stood on the surface of Novara 7. The sky above was a sickly yellow, and the once fertile fields around the colony were bare and cracked. Despite the toxic atmosphere, John was wearing only a light environmental suit. Behind him, Lisa and Dr. Rivera were collecting soil samples. In orbit, the Council scientists watched through drone cameras, unable to believe that humans could function in such conditions. These readings can't be right, Clamor said, checking the data from the human sensors. The toxin levels should be incapacitating them. Zarvex watched the screens thoughtfully. Yet they move as if they were in a park on their homeworld. For 2 weeks, the human team worked on the surface. They discovered that an invasive fungal species, accidentally introduced by the colonists, was producing toxic compounds as it consumed native plants. The fungus thrived in conditions that weakened other life forms. It's not so different from problems we've faced on Earth, Dr. Rivera explained during a briefing with the Council team. When European settlers reached the Americas, they brought plants and animals that sometimes became invasive in the new environment. But how do we stop it? Clamor asked. The colony is lost. The fungus is too widespread. We don't need to destroy it, Lisa said, bringing up a holographic model. We need to balance it. Every species has natural predators or competitors. Dr. Rivera nodded. We've identified 3 Earth microorganisms that can feed on the fungus without becoming invasive themselves. They'll reduce the fungal population to manageable levels. And then we introduce these, he continued, showing images of hardy Earth plants. They can grow in the damaged soil and gradually clean the toxins. As they die and decompose, they'll rebuild the soil structure. The Council scientists were silent for a long moment. This is not a military solution, Zarvex finally said. You are not proposing to destroy the threat, but to create balance. Exactly, John replied. On Earth, we learned the hard way that ecosystems are complex networks. Remove or add one piece carelessly and everything can collapse. Clamor's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. I had not expected this approach from Deathworlders. Lisa finished for him. Living on a challenging planet taught us to understand systems, not just conquer them. The next month was exhausting. Human teams worked on the surface, implementing Dr. Rivera's plan. They introduced the microorganisms first, watching carefully as they spread and began to control the fungus. Then came the first wave of plants, tough grasses and small shrubs that could survive in the damaged soil. From orbit, the Council scientists monitored every step, asking endless questions about Earth's ecological history. They were particularly interested in how humans had repaired damage caused by their own industrial development. Your species nearly destroyed your planet's ecosystems several times, Clamor noted during one conversation. Yet you recovered. We made terrible mistakes, John admitted, but we learned from them, sometimes the hard way. 6 weeks after they arrived, the first signs of recovery appeared. Patches of green spread across the colony's fields. The air quality improved as the plants began processing the toxins. It would take years for the colony to be fully habitable, again, but the crisis was ending. On their final day, John stood with Zarvex on the observation deck of the council ship, looking down at the planet's surface. The first humans and council members were returning to the main colony site, beginning the long process of rebuilding. "When we first met your species," Zarvex said quietly, "we feared you would be conquerors, warriors shaped by a harsh world." "And now?" John asked. "Now we see that the same forces that made you strong also made you wise." The alien's forearms made a gesture of respect. "You understand survival in ways we had forgotten." Back on the human ship, Admiral Frost received a message from Earth Command. The Council had requested human help with 2 more environmental crises on different worlds. "It seems we've found our place in the galaxy," the Admiral told John and Lisa. "Not as warriors, but as caretakers." "For now," Lisa said with a small smile, "but there's still much for both sides to learn about each other." As their ship prepared to jump to its next destination, John watched the stars streaking past. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but perhaps being from a death world wasn't a disadvantage after all. Perhaps it was exactly what humanity needed to become, not just survivors but leaders. 8 months after the success on Novaris 7, Lisa Daniels stepped off the shuttle onto Centauri Medical Station. The massive ring-shaped structure orbited a distant star on the edge of Council space. Once a place of healing and research, it now served as the command center for the greatest health crisis the Galactic Council had ever faced. "Dr. Wells is waiting for you in the main lab," said the human aide who met her. "The situation has gotten worse." Lisa nodded grimly. 3 weeks ago, reports had emerged of a new disease spreading rapidly through Council space. The illness attacked multiple species with devastating effect. With their highly controlled environments and centuries of medical technology, most Council races had lost their natural resistance to disease. Now they were paying the price. The main laboratory was a hive of activity. Council medical specialists from a dozen worlds worked alongside a small team of human doctors. In the center stood Dr. Samantha Wells, Earth's leading virologist. Her red hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept in days, Lisa, Samantha said with relief. "Thank you for coming." "How bad is it?" Lisa asked. Samantha gestured to a holographic display showing affected worlds. Red dots covered nearly a third of Council space. "Mortality rates between 50 and 70% depending on the species," Samantha explained. "It's a virus, but unlike anything in the Council medical database." A tall, willowy alien approached them. High Counselor Tilan, head of the Council Medical Authority, moved with a grace that belied his obvious exhaustion. "Dr. Daniels," he greeted her. "Your expertise in xenobiology may be our last hope. We have lost 3 million citizens already." Lisa set down her equipment. "I'll need to see everything you have on the virus's structure and how it affects different physiologies." As she reviewed the data, a pattern emerged. The virus attacked cellular structures common to many Council species, but in slightly different ways for each race. Creating a universal vaccine seemed impossible. "The biggest problem is time," Samantha explained. "By the time we develop a vaccine for one species, thousands more have died." Lisa stared at the genetic sequence of the virus. Something about it seemed familiar. "Have you tested this on human tissue samples?" "Yes," Tilan answered. "Your species appears completely immune." "We assumed it was because the virus evolved to target Council races specifically." Lisa shook her head. "I don't think that's it. I think we've seen something like this before." She quickly searched through Earth's medical database. "Here, it's similar to a virus family that was common on Earth centuries ago. Most humans developed immunity through exposure." Samantha leaned closer. "You're right. Our immune systems would recognize and neutralize this almost immediately." "Can you create a vaccine from human antibodies?" Tilan asked. "Better than that," Samantha said, excitement growing in her voice. "We could use human volunteers as living antibody factories. Their bodies would produce exactly what's needed to fight this virus." Word spread rapidly through the station. Within hours, a call went out to Earth. The response was immediate. Greg Hoffman, a medical logistics specialist from Boston, led the effort to organize human volunteers. "We need thousands of donors," Greg explained to the council representatives. "People willing to be infected with a harmless version of the virus so their bodies will produce the antibodies." "You would deliberately expose your people to disease?" asked one council member, horrified. Greg smiled slightly. "On Earth, we've been doing that for centuries. It's how we've built immunity to many diseases. We call it vaccination." 10 days later, the first transport ships from Earth arrived at the medical station. Thousands of human volunteers filled the corridors, ready to donate blood and plasma. Samantha and her team worked around the clock, modifying human antibodies to work with alien physiologies. Lisa moved between the labs and treatment areas, her knowledge of both human and alien biology proving crucial. She helped design delivery systems that could introduce the human-derived treatments safely into very different alien bodies. "It's working," Tilan announced one morning, his voice trembling with emotion. "The death rates on Proxima Colony have dropped by 40% since treatments began." More ships arrived from Earth daily. Greg established collection centers and processing facilities throughout the station. What began as emergency aid evolved into a massive operation spanning dozens of worlds. In the station's central hub, John Mercer arrived from Earth to help coordinate diplomatic efforts. He found Lisa in the observation lounge, taking a rare moment of rest. "Admiral Frost sends his regards," John said, joining her at the window. "Earth Command is calling this operation Good Neighbor." Lisa smiled tiredly. "A fitting name. How are things back home?" "Blood donation centers in every major city. People standing in line for hours to help." John shook his head in wonder. "When news of the plague reached Earth, there was no hesitation." "The EP Council doesn't understand it," Lisa said. "They keep asking what Earth wants in return." "And what do you tell them?" "The truth. That humans help because we can, because we should." 2 months into the crisis, the tide began to turn. The modified human antibodies proved effective against most strains of the virus. Recovery rates climbed steadily across Council space. In treatment centers, aliens watched in amazement as human medical workers moved efficiently through areas that would have been considered dangerously infectious to Council species. "Your immune systems are remarkable," Tilan said to Samantha as they reviewed the latest data. "You evolved on a planet teeming with microorganisms that would devastate our worlds." "It wasn't easy," Samantha replied. "Human history is full of devastating plagues. Millions died before we developed the medical knowledge and natural immunities we have today." "A history written in blood," Tilan observed. "Yet here you are, using that hard-won strength to save others." As the immediate crisis passed, a new phase began. Lisa and Samantha worked with Council scientists to develop permanent vaccines and treatments that wouldn't require ongoing human donations. Greg established training centers where Council medical personnel could learn human techniques for disease control and prevention. 6 months after the first outbreak, John attended a special session of the Galactic Council. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from every affected world. High Counselor Tilan addressed the assembly. "We owe our survival to the humans of Earth," he said solemnly. "When faced with our greatest crisis, they offered not conquest but compassion, not exploitation but aid." Lisa, seated with the human delegation, felt a swell of pride as Tilan continued. "We once feared the people of Earth for their strength, born of their harsh world. Now we understand that same crucible forged not just their bodies, but their spirits. They are indeed Deathworlders, but they have used the power that gave them to preserve life, not take it." Afterward, at the reception, Zarvex approached John and Lisa. "The Council has approved a permanent human presence on all major medical facilities in our space. Your knowledge is too valuable to ignore." John nodded. "Earth is honored to help, but there's something more important happening here." "What is that?" asked Zarvex. Lisa answered, understanding. "You're beginning to see us as we really are. Not just warriors, not just survivors, but healers too." As the human ships prepared to return to Earth, carrying those volunteers who had completed their donations, news arrived of a new crisis brewing on the edges of Council space. Not a plague this time, but something potentially more devastating. The Saurid Imperium has attacked 3 border colonies. Admiral Frost informed John and Lisa via secure communication. The Council has formally requested Earth's military assistance. John felt a weight settle in his stomach. So now they'll see another side of humanity after all. Perhaps, Lisa said quietly. But maybe that's not a bad thing. They've seen our compassion. Now they'll learn that the same determination that made us fight disease so fiercely also means we protect those who cannot protect themselves. As their ship changed course toward the new crisis, John wondered what the coming months would bring. Humanity's place in the galaxy was changing rapidly. The Deathworlders were becoming something no one, not even humans themselves, had fully anticipated. Admiral William Frost stood on the bridge of the Earth flagship Defender, watching the holographic display of the battle. Around him, human officers worked calmly despite the tension in the air. The fleet had arrived at Sector 7 just in time to intercept the Saurid warships advancing toward the Council colony. "Enemy vessels entering weapons range in 3 minutes, Admiral," reported his tactical officer. Frost nodded. "Begin defensive positioning. Remember, our priority is protecting the evacuation ships." 4 months had passed since the Council's request for military aid against the Saurid Imperium. The reptilian species had refused membership in the Galactic Council for centuries, preferring isolation. Now, without warning, they had launched attacks on multiple border worlds. The Council races, evolved for cooperation rather than conflict, were overwhelmed. Their ships were advanced but designed for science and exploration, not war. Their crews lacked combat experience. When the Saurids began their assault, the Council had little choice but to turn to the Deathworlders of Earth. "Admiral," called a communications officer. "We're receiving a transmission from the Saurid command ship." The main screen flickered to life, showing a massive reptilian being. War Commander Drax's scales were dark green with red markings of rank. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils regarded the human admiral coldly. "Earth vessel," Drax growled through the translator. "This conflict does not concern your species. Withdraw, or be destroyed alongside the weaklings you protect." Frost met the alien's gaze steadily. "We're here at the Council's request, War Commander. These colonies are under our protection. We have no desire for conflict with your people, but we will defend these civilians." Drax made a sound that might have been laughter. "So the rumors are true. The mighty Deathworlders have become lapdogs to the Council. Very well. You will learn why the Saurid Imperium has never known defeat." The screen went dark. Frost turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Defensive formation Delta. Remember your training." The Saurid ship struck hard and fast. Their technology was impressive, nearly equal to Earth's most advanced vessels. But Frost had anticipated their tactics. Instead of meeting force with force, the human fleet split into smaller groups, drawing fire while protecting the civilian transports fleeing the colony. On a Council diplomatic vessel nearby, John Mercer and Senator Karen Miller watched the battle unfold. Senator Miller had arrived from Earth 2 weeks earlier, a tall, composed woman with silver-streaked dark hair and decades of diplomatic experience. "The Council expected us to simply overwhelm the Saurids with superior firepower," John observed. "They don't understand our approach." Miller nodded. "Most species in the galaxy evolved toward specialization. The Council races focused on science and cooperation. The Saurids specialized in aggression and conquest. But humans, we never had the luxury of specializing," John finished. "Earth forced us to be adaptable." Zarvex entered the observation deck, his forearms moving in patterns that John had learned indicated stress. "Your Admiral Frost is not using your fleet's full capabilities. The Saurids have superior numbers. Why does he not strike their command vessels directly?" "Because there are still civilians on those colony moons," Miller explained. "He's fighting a defensive battle to allow evacuation before engaging fully." "A warrior with restraint," Zarvex said quietly. "Another contradiction from your species." The battle continued for hours. The human fleet took damage but held its position, protecting the evacuation ships until the last transport signaled it was clear. Only then did Frost order a different strategy. Phase 2, he commanded. Tactical Pattern Omega. The human ships regrouped with surprising speed, forming new attack formations. Suddenly, the defensive force became an aggressive one, targeting the Saurid fleet with precision strikes rather than brute force. They're not trying to destroy the Saurid fleet, Zarvex realized as he watched. They're disabling their weapons and propulsion systems. Miller smiled slightly. Admiral Frost understands something fundamental about warfare that both the Council and the Saurids have forgotten. The goal isn't to kill your enemy, it's to win. When the battle ended, 7 Saurid vessels drifted powerless in space. The others had retreated. Human medical ships moved in immediately, retrieving injured Saurid crew members for treatment alongside wounded humans. In the following weeks, similar scenes played out across the border regions. Human fleets engaged Saurid forces, fighting with a combination of tactics that bewildered both their allies and enemies. They were fierce in battle, but showed mercy to defeated foes. They risked their own lives to save civilians of all species. On the Galactic Council's Central World, Senator Miller addressed the emergency session. Representatives from all member worlds listened as she outlined Earth's proposed strategy. The Saurid Imperium believes that strength only exists to dominate, she explained. We disagree. Earth's military history is complex, but we've learned that true victory comes not from destruction, but from creating a better peace. She displayed a holographic map of the border regions. We propose a comprehensive approach. Military defense combined with diplomatic outreach and economic development. The Saurids must learn that there are benefits to cooperation that they cannot gain through conquest. High Counselor Telan spoke. Your warships have proven effective, Senator, but this diplomatic approach seems optimistic. The Saurids have rejected all previous attempts at negotiation. By species they considered weak, Miller replied. They respect strength. Now that they've faced Earth in battle, they may be more willing to listen. John worked closely with Zarvex to implement the diplomatic side of Earth's strategy. They established communication channels with moderate factions within the Saurid Imperium. They studied Saurid culture and history, looking for common ground. Their society values honor and direct confrontation, John explained during a strategy session. They see the Council's preference for compromise as weakness. We need to speak to them in terms they understand. Meanwhile, Admiral Frost continued to lead the defense of Council worlds. Human ships and soldiers stood alongside Council forces at key outposts. They shared tactical knowledge and training methods. For the first time, many Council species began to develop their own defense capabilities, guided by human experts. 6 months into the conflict, War Commander Drac requested a direct meeting with human representatives. On a neutral space station, he faced Admiral Frost and Senator Miller across a simple table. Your species fights well, Drac said bluntly. Not like the others. You understand battle. We understand its cost, Frost replied. Every war in Earth's history has taught us that lesson. Miller leaned forward. Commander Drac, we believe the Saurid Imperium and the Council could both benefit from a different relationship. Not subjugation, not forced alliance, but mutual respect. Drac's scaled face showed surprise. The Council races would never respect us. They fear us. Fear and respect are not the same, Miller said. Humans know this well. We were once feared by the Council too. Now we work together, each contributing our strengths. The negotiations were difficult and stretched over weeks. The Saurids were proud and suspicious, but they were also practical. The human fleets had proven that continued aggression would be costly, while the diplomatic team offered alternatives that preserve Saurid independence and honor. On the day the preliminary peace accords were signed, John found Zarvex in the observation lounge of the Council station. I must confess something, the four-armed alien said. When your ships first arrived to fight the Saurids, many in the Council feared you would be as brutal as they are, that your Deathworld nature would express itself in merciless warfare. John watched the stars beyond the window. There was a time in our history when that might have been true, but we've learned that strength without wisdom destroys itself. Zarvex made a gesture of agreement. You fight when necessary with surprising skill, but you also heal, build, and make peace, even with enemies. As Earth ships prepared to return to their usual posts throughout Council space, Admiral Frost received new orders from Earth Command. The Galactic Council had requested a permanent, human diplomatic and military presence in their central governing body. Senator Miller would remain as Earth's first full council representative. "The galaxy is changing," Frost told John as they reviewed the message, "and humanity's place in it. For the better, I hope," John replied. "That depends on us," the Admiral said thoughtfully. "Power always comes with responsibility. The Council is beginning to see us not just as warriors or healers, but as leaders. The question is, what kind of leaders will we choose to be?" 1 year after the peace accords with the Saurid Imperium, Senator Karen Miller stood in the newly constructed Hall of Worlds on Earth. The massive glass dome allowed visitors to see the blue sky and green trees of humanity's homeworld. All around, her representatives from over 30 alien species moved through the hall, many without environmental suits for the first time. "Remarkable," said Zarvex, now the High Counselor of the Galactic Council. "A year ago, most Council species could not have breathed your air or tolerated your gravity without protection." Karen smiled. "Dr. Wells and her team have done amazing work with their adaptation therapies. After the plague crisis and the Saurid conflict, the Galactic Council had faced a painful truth. Their civilizations had grown too specialized, too dependent on controlled environments and technology. When those systems failed, they were vulnerable. The humans' adaptability had saved them twice now. It was time to learn from the Deathworlders." John Mercer approached, accompanied by Lisa Daniels and a group of young aliens. The visitors looked nervous but excited as they experienced Earth's environment. "The first class of the Galactic Academy," John announced proudly. 27 students from 18 worlds. Lisa gestured to the group. "They've completed 6 months of adaptation therapy. They can now study on Earth with minimal environmental support." One of the alien students, a blue-skinned being with large eyes, spoke up. "It was difficult at first. Your world is intense. But Dr. Daniels was right. Our bodies can adapt more than we thought possible." Karen moved through the hall, greeting representatives from across the galaxy. The Earth Summit had drawn unprecedented attendance. Even the Saurids had sent observers, standing tall and proud, but no longer hostile. "The council vote is scheduled for tomorrow," Zarvex told her quietly. "All indications suggest the measure will pass." Karen nodded. The vote would determine the next stage of galactic governance, a reformed council structure that would give Earth a permanent leadership position alongside the founding races. More importantly, it would adopt many human concepts about diversity, adaptation, and resilience into galactic law. That evening, Karen met with her team to review their presentation for the final session. Dr. Samantha Wells was there, along with Admiral Frost, John, and Lisa. They gathered in a conference room overlooking the Pacific Ocean. "The medical exchange program has been overwhelmingly successful," Samantha reported. "Over 3,000 council physicians have completed training in human medical techniques. The new combined therapies have reduced plague recurrence by 90%. Admiral Frost added, "The Joint Defense Initiative is proceeding as well. 15 Council worlds have established their own defense forces using Earth training protocols. The Saurids have even expressed interest in joining the Mutual Protection Agreement." "And the environmental adaptation projects?" Karen asked, turning to Lisa. 9 previously uninhabitable worlds are now supporting mixed-species colonies," Lisa replied. "Dr. Rivera's team has developed ecosystem models that can be adapted for almost any planetary condition." John looked out at the ocean thoughtful. "When we first contacted the Galactic Council, they called us Deathworlders. They feared us." "With good reason," Admiral Frost said with a slight smile. "We are dangerous by their standards." "But that's not the whole story," Lisa added. "Our strength came from struggle, our adaptability from necessity, our compassion from understanding suffering." Karen stood, looking at the team that had helped reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. "Tomorrow I'll ask the Council to vote not just on a new governance structure, but on a new understanding of what it means to be advanced." Technological progress isn't enough. Biological specialization isn't enough. True civilization requires adaptability, resilience, and cooperation. The next day, representatives from all council worlds gathered in the Hall of Worlds. The chamber fell silent as Karen took the speaker's position. Behind her stood John, Lisa, Samantha, and Admiral Frost, symbols of humanity's different strengths. Distinguished representatives, Karen began. 2 years ago, Earth joined the galactic community as outsiders. You called us Deathworlders, creatures shaped by a harsh planet. You feared our strength, our resilience, our adaptability. She paused, looking around the room. You were right to recognize those qualities. But over these past 2 years, you've seen how those same traits that make us formidable can also make us valuable allies. We fought to protect your worlds not because we seek dominance, but because we understand that strength carries responsibility. Karen gestured to the Earth visible through the dome above. Our world taught us hard lessons. We learned to survive. Yes, but also to thrive. To build civilizations despite natural disasters, diseases, and conflicts. To heal our planet when we damaged it. To find balance between progress and preservation. Zarvek stepped forward. Senator Miller speaks truth. The Council has relied too long on specialization and separation. We created perfect environments for each species, but in doing so, we lost our ability to adapt. When crisis came, whether plague or war, we were vulnerable. What we propose today, Karen continued, is not Earth's dominance, but a new partnership. A galaxy where all species learn from each other's strengths, where adaptation is valued alongside specialization, where resilience is cultivated, not forgotten. The vote that followed was not unanimous, but the majority was overwhelming. The reformed Galactic Council would have 5 permanent seats, 3 held by founding races, 1 by Earth and 1 rotating among other member worlds. More importantly, the Council adopted new policies on cross-species education, medical exchange, environmental adaptation, and mutual defense. As the session ended, John found himself standing with Zarvex and a Saurid representative named Kralvos. "An historic day," Zarvex said, "the beginning of a new era." The Saurid inclined his scaled head. "My people were wrong about many things, but we were right about one: strength matters. What we failed to understand was that true strength is not merely physical, but mental and spiritual as well." John smiled. A lesson Earth learned through much trial and error. Later that week, as alien delegations prepared to return to their homeworlds, a ceremony was held to inaugurate the Galactic Academy of Evolutionary Adaptation. Built in the Rocky Mountains, the campus would host students from across the galaxy, teaching human survival techniques alongside alien sciences. Dr. Rivera led the gathered representatives on a tour of the grounds. The Eastern Campus contains environments modeled after various council worlds, he explained. The Western section recreates Earth's most challenging biomes. Students will experience both, learning to adapt to conditions beyond their evolutionary norm. As Lisa watched the first class of alien students exploring the campus, she felt a sense of wonder. "When I was a child, I dreamed of meeting aliens," she told John. "I never imagined they would come to Earth to learn from us. Not just from us," John replied. "With us. That's the key difference." High Counselor Zarvex joined them on the observation platform. "There is an ancient saying on my world: seek not the gentle path, for it creates gentle beings. Earth was never a gentle path." "No," agreed Lisa, "but it created beings capable of both great strength and great compassion. Kings, not just warriors," John said softly, echoing the phrase that had begun to spread throughout council space when referring to humans. As the sun set over the new academy, ships from dozens of worlds gleamed in the fading light. On the campus grounds, humans walked alongside aliens from across the galaxy. Some wore environmental suits, others had undergone adaptation therapy. All were learning from each other. Karen joined them on the platform. 2 years ago, they called us Deathworlders and meant it as a warning. Now they send their children to learn our ways. And we learn theirs, John added. That's the true meaning of leadership. In the years that followed, humanity's influence spread throughout the galaxy not through conquest but through cooperation. Earth's harsh lessons became valuable teaching tools for species that had never faced such challenges. In return, humanity gained access to sciences and perspectives developed across hundreds of worlds. The term Deathworlder remained, but its meaning had changed. It was no longer a term of fear, but one of respect. For the humans of Earth had proven that greatness comes not from domination, but from transformation, of themselves, of others, and of the very stars they now help to govern, not just as warriors, but as kings.